Hello and welcome back to the Editorial, the podcast where we talk about everything we got wrong and everything we got right each week. That's not normally how I do it.
You talk about, I don't think you normally say the right thing.
I think I did the World Leaderboard intro, winners and losers of the week. But I just changed it to be about us. Regardless,
Very long and boring if we talked about
everything we got right.
Yeah.
We just have to repeat everything we said because everything we say is flawless and correct. I'm joined as always by Zach Michaelis, our editor-in-chief.
Hello, hello, hello.
It's been a little while since we did one of these.
It's been really long
we
time.
We pre-recorded two for while we were away, and we are now back. It's been a month since our last episode, which means there's a lot to discuss. But before we get into the mistakes we've made, quickly to address the debate that has apparently been happening on Reddit, we are not shutting the company down.
Has that happened? Is that actually a thing people are talking about?
It's a thing people are talking about.
Oh, okay.
The theory is that because we've been releasing fewer videos lately, especially there was about 2 weeks ago when we released 5 videos in 1 week, which for us is crazy low.
Was that low?
Yeah. So people theorize that was evidence of us shutting down, which does feel a bit drastic considering we still did put out 5 videos, which for a normal YouTube channel would be like quite a lot. Basically what's happened is our kind of production animation side of things, we're very constrained on right now. One of our animators is unfortunately unable to work for health reasons. So that has taken us down basically 4 videos a week, 4 fewer videos that he's no longer doing. And then we've had both of the other remaining animators that regularly work on main videos have kind of been alternating being on holiday throughout September and October, which is, I mean, totally fair enough, but has worked poorly for us. We're trying to work around this. We're hoping to still get kind of 10 videos out a week, which is fewer than normal, but like more than 5. And that is partly just by using the animators we have as much as we can, and also me doing some animation.
He's getting back into
it.
So
see if you can spot them. I always forget to put the credits on the end of videos, so if there's no way you'll be able to spot my name on the video, but if there isn't a credits at the end, probably me, because I always forget. So yeah, that's what's happening. We're trying to get out as much as we can, and hopefully those videos will have no mistakes. But
well, I actually think,
A,
month, obviously means we have fewer videos to talk about than we would do normally,
That's
right?
True.
That does help. It means this episode is not going to be super long. And B, I do think actually, because we've all had a bit more time to really, nitpick over things, there have been fewer errors. So I think I'm going to start with, I'm here, so I'm just going to go for global. Okay. So basically, the last time we did this was like late August. It was about 25th of August, I think that episode was recorded. And so we've got tons of videos since then.
Yeah.
But there aren't actually that many errors. There are sort of, we could do it by individual videos, but basically there are, let's say like 5 videos that fell below the like-dislike threshold, or maybe a couple more than that, but quite a chunk of those are basically just Argentina videos, right? So whenever we do anything like Millet, some people think we're not being sufficiently critical, some people think we're being too nice to him. The like-dislike ratio is always slightly lower, it's got about 95%. I didn't think there were any errors on those videos.
Big call.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure though.
Okay.
And the one that was the biggest sort of call, as it were, was the one about why Argentina's economy is looking a bit shaky. And sometimes those videos, because you're basing that off like monthly GDP data, sometimes that is just, it's a bit melodramatic, but it's been borne out by subsequent events, right? Like they need to be bailed out by the US. And yeah, pretty strong consensus these days that Argentina's economy is indeed looking a little bit shaky. And then on top of that, we did why China's economy is stalling, which was like 3 or 4 weeks ago now. And that has a slightly lower dislike ratio. What I think is interesting about that is that when we used to do China bad videos, this is how we speak about these topics in the office. Videos where the theme was China's economy doing badly. Yeah. Reliably super high like-dislike ratios. And this video, even though the actual content was a lot more tempered, right? The point we're making more is that China has essentially redirected investment as a sort of share of GDP away from property towards, high-tech manufacturing, right? And that is sort of fundamentally unsustainable because you still have the same imbalances in the macroeconomy. Despite the fact that the actual content was more tempered, the like-dislike ratio was way lower than those videos used to come in at, right? And I think that there is just this sense on YouTube and like the wider sort of like Western audience that like we've been hearing the China collapse video along those lines for such a long time. I mean, I appreciate that like I guess sort of title thumb sort of lean that way, but actually the content is not at all like that, right?
Yeah.
And the content is quite tempered, and I think quite an accurate description of what's going on, right? It's more just that is unsustainable. You still can get returns of that sort of strategy as long as you can find new export markets indefinitely, or at least for a while. But the point actually is that you can't do that forever. At a certain point, the imbalances become too large, or other countries are just unwilling to take in your exports. Anyway, that's not the point. The point there is just that's interesting.
Yeah.
There was no errors in that video.
Yeah, I was going to say, the point isn't even really the video itself. It's about the kind of shifting meta on YouTube.
Exactly. I think people's opinions of those sort of content has changed, right? And I think that that's interesting, because I think it's actually sort of a good thing. I mean, I know that we sort of indulged in it a little bit. We actually never did the whole China collapsing videos. We would always do something about China's, I don't know, local government debt. Yeah. You love those videos. Financing vehicles and all that sort of thing. But I think it's probably a good thing that actually people are realizing that, people have been saying that for ages, it just hasn't happened, and it isn't going to happen. Right? I think in lots of ways, the Chinese economy just does look like it's winning at the moment. Anyway, the next one is, are China, India, and Russia forming an anti-American alliance? 94.5. I don't think there was an error in that video, but again, I think that this is one of those classic, slightly controversial topics. I think there was also a flash of an India-Pakistan map, which I think might have triggered some irritation.
How dare
and I don't think there was no errors in that video.
Yeah.
Then the last one is American Democracy in Crisis. This was released last week. Basically, we don't really touch the sort of I don't know, the very, it's sort of stuff that feels cultural. You know what I mean? I think the Charlie Kirk assassination and the sort of ensuing discourse around that just did feel it's just a bit charged for us, don't you think?
Yeah, and also it was in the week when we made 5 videos.
Yeah,
which doesn't help.
So we sort of stay away from that, but I think at a certain point it sort of felt like we should do something on what does look like, in broad strokes, America's democratic crisis.
Yeah.
And the way I decided to go into that video, and I think this is a really interesting topic, but it's probably not the place to talk about it here, is it? But we went into it via the angle of talking about losers' consent.
Which you've wanted to talk about for a long time.
I love losers' consent.
Desperate for this angle for so long.
Love losers' consent. But basically, that video had to be cut quite a few times because, it was covering a lot of ground, so it naturally got well over the sort of 1,200 word limit. And I think for some people, that meant that at the start of the video, I couldn't spend loads of time explaining why you should really care about losers' consent.
Yeah.
And so I think for some people, they sort of opened that video expecting something about Trump is a fascist, and got some sort of weird pseudo-academic rant about losers' consent. And they're like, this is crap. I didn't click on this. Super fair enough.
You kind of didn't.
But I mean, that's a frustration for me as well. But I think that maybe the best way of thinking about that video is that if you accept that losers' consent is sort of fundamental to the functioning of a democratic state at least, but arguably any state at all, then from that angle, America's democratic crisis does look just particularly acute, right? Because in every other country, losers' consent holds up actually pretty well, right? It is just America where losers' consent is really, really fraying. And I think that's there's sort of 2 reasons I want to do that video. One, again, I just think that there are lots of reasons to think that losers' consent is just really, really key to the functioning of the state. And 2, it's a very good way, at least to my mind, of explaining why America's democratic crisis is unique in those terms. So I appreciate that is just a bit of a weird video. So I get it. That is everything. Trump bailing out Argentina as well has slightly lower, but that's because it's Argentina.
Yeah.
So that is everything over on Global.
Which channel are you going to go to next?
I'm going to go to EU next.
Love that.
Cool. So on EU, the first thing to say is that there was a tiny error on, is Russia already at war with NATO? We said that Turkey shot down a Russian jet in 2012. It was in fact 2015. I'm very sorry for that. That is an error acknowledged. But then honestly, and there was one other tiny error actually in Netherlands accidentally moving to a 4-day week.
Yes, popular video.
Which is that, I can't remember if it's the Wassenaar Agreement. There are 2 Wassenaar agreements, both named after a little town in in the Netherlands, which is inconvenient.
Yeah.
And one of them is about like, I don't know, petrochemicals or like aerospace, something like that.
Sure.
Anyway, and that was the one shown on screen, but actually the one that we were referring to was the Wassenaar Arrangement, which is about sort of wage moderation in the Dutch unions.
Sure.
Fun stuff. But honestly, apart from that, I really cannot see a single video that falls below the like-dislike threshold. So I think we can sort of just move straight on to UK.
Huge.
And I think the first video...
Great month for EU.
I know.
EU
generally
one confusing Dutch town is our only stumbling block.
Well, and...
Oh, and also the
2012, 2015. Yeah. So let's just start... We can just start with digital ID because that's the most recent one. And that one has fallen below
93.7,
the dislike threshold. It has indeed. I mean, it's just because people hate the policy. I think. I don't think there's any errors in the video. There was one tiny error. There's Bosnia highlighted when it should be Serbia.
Yeah, that was on me. That's the other way, There's no credits and there's countries that are wrong. That's how I've animated it. Apologies for that. That is fully on me.
And then the last one is, the last video I think to talk about is, did Brexit create the UK's asylum crisis?
So we're just saying that one was unpopular because people didn't like the policy. That was the...
Yeah, sorry, I'm moving very fast through this. I don't actually need to.
No.
I sort of assume there'd be so many videos to talk about that I'd have to sort of rush through them. But yeah, you're right, I don't. So definitely sorry for that error about Bosnia, Serbia switch up. But yeah, on the digital ID video itself, I don't think there's anything wrong with that video, content-wise. I think the like-dislike ratio is just fundamentally reflective of the fact that lots of our viewers don't like it. Don't like the policy itself, and so they're expressing that by kindly disliking our video.
It's very kind of them.
Something similar, I think, happened with the Online Safety Act, although there was probably some more antipathy towards those videos because people thought we weren't being harsh enough about the Online Safety Act in those videos. But there's very little evaluation of the digital ID thing in that video. We're not taking a side at all. We just mentioned some polling that suggests that actually it's surprisingly popular, or at least it was surprisingly popular to the online audience. And I think, people just downvoted it because they don't like it as a policy.
And then the last one you said was Brexit.
Did Brexit create the UK's asylum crisis? Again, I actually I think it was a very good video by Georgie. And some of it's talking about how basically leaving what's called the Dublin regulation, which provide a sort of framework for people to return unauthorised asylum claimants, how that has contributed to the UK's asylum crisis. And I think just fundamentally, right, if you look at Europe, the number of asylum seekers going into Europe has dropped dramatically in the last year or so, but the reverse has happened in the UK, right? And so clearly something's going wrong there from the UK's perspective. And I think that the content of that video is good. I just think it's controversial in lots of ways, right? I think that some people, the asylum crisis per se, obviously provokes emotions on either side of the political line. And then I think if you throw in a sort of little bit of Brexit as well, you're going to get an extra bit of upset. But I think that is everything.
Wow.
I'm sorry for rushing through that. I really did just go blah, 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 blah.
You're excited?
Yeah, I sort of looked at the long list of videos and I thought, oh my God,
there's going to be loads.
I'm going to have to say a lot of things here.
Turns out
pretty great. Yeah.
If you have any other criticisms that you want us to talk about, obviously let us know. But for the remainder of this episode, we're going to move on from discussing our mistakes to answering your questions. We have 6 minutes left on the clock. So let's see how many questions we can get through. We have 32 questions currently in the hopper of potential questions.
Easy.
Let's do all 32.
Yeah, 12 seconds a question.
Starting with question 28, which is, what is something you think people should keep an eye on when it comes to Pacific politics?
Oh my God, Rory's the man for this.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Rory? What's something people should keep an eye on when it comes to Pacific politics?
Yeah, now. Come on. That was a lot. You can't.
Do you want to repeat any of that into the microphone?
He said probably climate change or China/Australia/US. He basically just listed every country in the Pacific.
Yeah. The competitive environment in that region. And obviously, climate is a major factor for a lot of those countries.
Yeah, I think the Australia push-pull between the US and China is interesting.
I think we probably should pay more attention to the Pacific based on that answer. But
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Actually, can I actually just give an answer?
That would have been ideal originally.
So, the answer is the new, I think it's called the Strategic Review, the US Strategic Review. There was a report in Politico a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think anyone's got the full text yet. There's a report that actually, having since really 2012 talked about establishing America as a Pacific power, that the new Trump administration is basically ditching that and basically just giving up that region to China, really committing to spheres of influence sort of politics. And I think the fact that that was reported in Politico and then we haven't had the full document perhaps suggests that that has got some pushback from China hawks in the US administration. And I do think that basically the big open question is, what is the American position on the Pacific? You know, does it still consider itself a Pacific power, or is Trump really committed to that sort of like spheres of influence politics where he just, you know, focuses all his strategic attention on America and the Central and then South America?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, next up, question number 12. How are you able to keep making all the podcasts when they don't seem to get that many views on YouTube? Do they make a loss, or do they get a bunch of views on other platforms? I like them and I hope you don't stop making them.
They make a massive loss.
They do make a big loss. Most of the views that the podcasts get are on YouTube. Obviously, some people listen through various podcast apps and some people watch on Nebula, but the majority of views are on YouTube. So it's not like something being hidden that you're not seeing. And even when it comes to like podcast ads, we don't even really do that properly. So they definitely lose money. Right now, we do both podcasts because we want to make shorts from them. And we want to make shorts from them because right now we are obligated to make a certain number of shorts a week. That obligation ends at the end of October. So at that point, we'll probably start making fewer shorts, which therefore means we'll need fewer podcasts. Doesn't necessarily mean any of the podcasts are going anywhere. Certainly Editorial is going nowhere. The other two podcasts, there's no plan at the moment to do anything with either of them. Yeah. But yeah, they do both lose money. The reason we do them is, one, we quite like doing them, I think. I think they're quite a nice different thing to do versus just writing scripts all the time, especially for the kind of the writers, for all of you guys. It's nice to be able to talk about it and have a little argument about it rather than just like writing things down constantly. And
although
also,
we don't argue enough in the podcast.
And we don't. It could be so much more.
We should argue.
That's how we get more views.
Yeah.
And the other reason I think that we do them is because although they don't make money from YouTube adverts, they are a pretty effective way of us telling you about things. So for instance, in like 2 weeks time when we've got an exciting big new product to announce, which we do, the podcast is probably the first place we talk about it. Like the podcasts are a great vehicle for merchandise and that kind of thing too. Question number 18. How long do you believe Mark Carney will remain Prime Minister of Canada?
Oh, good question.
Good question.
Oh, it's just,
how's he doing so far?
I think surprisingly well. I think that people often point to these, some people point to these polls showing that the Conservatives are a couple of points ahead, but it's worth remembering that the Liberals didn't win the popular vote by very much, just because under that first past the post system, even a narrow Liberal victory in the popular vote translates to a pretty significant majority in seats. And so, yeah, the fact that basically in the aggregate, the Conservatives and Liberals in Canada sort of level pegging bodes pretty well, I think, for the Liberals. I would also say that more importantly, Mark Carney's own personal approval ratings are still really quite strong, whereas Pierre Poilievre, who is still Conservative Party leader, are still pretty miserable. Right? He still has a massive leader, Poilievre, on preferred Prime Minister, and that generally becomes more important when it gets to an election. I don't think Poilievre will still be the leader of the Conservatives when the next election. That'd be pretty crazy. So yeah, I mean, I can see him winning the next election.
He's got a good while left.
Yeah, maybe it's forecasting. You know,
so hard to tell.
2029 or 2030, whatever.
You're saying that he's like 2 points behind compared to Starmer and what's happened in the UK. Like 2 points behind. That's lovely.
I know. Well, and I think, by the way, this goes to something we talked about with the Carney back in the first place. Right, it's a lot of its vibes, and I think that Carney is just a better communicator and a more. I think today's politics demands a more combative sort of style. Yeah, I think that basically more combative politicians tend to do better at the moment. Yeah, I don't know what that is exactly. Probably a function of loads of things like social media and whatever. But like, yeah, I think basically passive politicians who sort of hope that, I don't know, they get some nice policies through and everyone will thank me later. Yeah, it's pie in the sky that you've got to shout and have a go at your enemies.
Final question. We don't really have time for it, but I'm guessing with the beard fluff, we've probably got a little bit of time. Finally, question
That's staying in,
29. We don't hear enough about Ethiopia. Could you tell us a bit more about Eritrea backing the TPLF?
Backing the TPLF?
That's what it says.
This is not a whole thing. From the last thing I know, there are factions within the TPLF, and the last thing I saw was that one of the factions was considering backing Eritrea. Eritrea obviously went against TPLF originally and is now the relations between Eritrea and Ethiopia have soured. So apparently there has been some sort of rapprochement between factions of the TPLF and Eritrea in the hope they can somehow resist Ethiopia. One of the things I would say about this, though, is that this was a story that was reported in quite a lot of mainstream outlets, including The Economist, I think, and maybe the FT. But it's one of those stories when you...
The Economist at the moment.
I know, but not the FT. I'm sorry, FT. But when you dig into it, really nothing to it. I mean, it was basically, there was one article written by, I think, a former prime minister of Tigray in a niche Ethiopian outlet and mentioning in passing that, there was talk of an alliance between Eritrea and the TPLF. And then it's just nothing else. It's one of those weird phantom stories where everyone's got a bit of a hubbub about it. But they did it a couple of months ago. And then I looked into it and I just couldn't really find anything to it. And I think actually, I think that essentially The Economist got sort of slightly hoodwinked by it. And and reporting on Ethiopia is always really difficult because who has reliable Ethiopian news? And there was a couple of really good Twitter accounts that I used to follow who did niche stuff, but it's tough. I think that's actually the real lesson from this is just to be wary of a headline, because I think that was quite a catchy headline that turned into nothing.
Yeah, it's true. Well, thanks for the update.
Yeah,
but I'm sure there'll be more Ethiopia content at some point. You love a bit of Ethiopia.
I do.
It's impressive we've lasted this long without an Ethiopia video.
They liberalised their currency a couple of months ago, and that could have been a good vid.
Could have been.
Well,
don't know about good vid, but
yeah.
It could have been one you made. Okay, join us again in 2 weeks' time. We will be back in 2 weeks. We have no more issues planned.
What's 2 weeks? 11th to 14th?
Maybe.
Yeah, we will be.
Okay. Good. See you again in 2 weeks for more apologising, acknowledgising, and answering your questions. So make sure you submit your questions for the Q&A next time in the comments. We'll see you then. Any other thoughts on that?
No, you picked up a bit of fluff on your beard.
Oh, well.
Oh, more chin. It's still, now it's really...
No, it's more prominent.
There you go. Oh, you had it. You put it back. It's now in this corner. No, it's here now. You got to pinch. I'm not pinching for you. I don't know where
it is.
It's now here. Down. There you go.
You got it.
You still got a little bit more.
Oh.
It's a bit lower. Scarlet, open with it.